On this edition of Native Report, we attend a permanent exhibit of Eastman Johnson paintings chronicling mid-19th century Native life in the Lake Superior region.
We meet Sara Agaton Howes and learn about what role distance running plays in her life.
You will learn about a community health program on the Lac du Flambeau Reservation of Wisconsin.
We also learn about what we can do to lead healthier lives and hear from our elders on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux community, the Blandin Foundation, and the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Ernie Stevens.
And I'm Rita Aspinwall. Eastman Johnson was one of America's finest painters. A permanent exhibit features 40 oils, charcoals, and pastel works of art, featuring the Ojibwe around Lake Superior during the mid-19th century.
With the opening of the Lake Superior Ojibwe Gallery, a collection of works by Eastman Johnson now have a permanent home in the St. Louis County Historical Society.
We're standing in the Lake Superior Ojibwe Gallery, a room that since the move of the Historical Society to the depot in the late 80s has held the Eastman Johnson collection and other treasures associated with Ojibwe culture. Eastman Johnson came to the head of the lakes in 1856-57 to visit his sister in Superior. And at the time, he was very much aware that it was a changing time, and he found his way to Grand Portage, where annuity gatherings were taking place. And there he stopped with his sketch pad and depicted with authenticity the Ojibwe people. Later in his career, he would go on to sketch and paint the likes of Dolly Madison. But at that time in his life, while he was visiting family, he had just returned from Europe where he had received substantial training. He paused because he recognized it was a pivotal time, a time of change for the Ojibwe people. He captured those images, he painted them back at his studio, and he never parted with that collection. He kept it within his homes over his lifetime, and eventually through his widow in a chain of ownership and custody, the collection ended up with the St. Louis County Historical Society, and that would be in about the 1920s.
You know, I can still see some of these faces in American Indian people today, and in the surrounding area. We kind of thought that maybe not all of these pictures might be of Grand Portagers. There could have been, Indians in the area of Duluth, and maybe some with Fond du Lac also. It's possible.
The St. Louis County Historical Society owns 40 paintings and drawings, and only a portion of these are on display at any one time. Art historians have described the collection as outstanding.
This is where the Eastman Johnsons are stored when they're not on exhibit. These are specially made cabinets designed specially for this collection. We received these cabinets as a result of a $10,000 grant. Some of the pieces, actually we don't have any on display right now, but some of the pieces have a verso image on the other side. We only discovered those after they were unframed and realized that Eastman Johnson had drawn something on the back of the piece. These are pieces that came with their artwork. These are sleeves, a pair of leggings, and a pair of leggings. And there's also 2 sashes. The sashes are all finger woven with beads woven right into the sashes themselves. And these, if you can see them, have such tiny, tiny beads.
At one time, our whole collection was up, to be viewed at one time. And we used to have a lot bigger gallery at that time. But then we, with the building concerns, we had to take things down. walls were sweating, and just you know, to protect, you know, this collection that's irreplaceable, that we you know, put them into storage for a while. Eastman Johnson was a trained realist, so what he's seen, he put down in his art. To really appreciate his art, though, even some of the things that I see up on the wall here at the time, viewers, I think, you know, you need to sometimes get close to him and even bring your magnifying glass, because he kind of wove things in there, even in the shadows, that if you got a magnifying glass, it comes out in really nice detail. And he was that good.
Input as to how the new exhibit should look was sought by the Historical Society by forming an advisory board consisting of members from regional tribal bands.
Anything we do within this room or with this collection or anything owned that represents American Indian or Ojibwe people, anything that we do, we run through our committee. In fact, some of the names of the paintings were changed to more respectfully depict the individuals who were represented within. The collection will never again be exhibited in its entirety for expanded periods of time. From time to time we may do that, but when you visit the Lake Superior Ojibwe Gallery, you'll see 1/2 to 2/3 of the collection, so it can rest. Why is that? Because the collection is delicate, especially the charcoals, because in 1856, when Eastman Johnson visited the head of the lakes, he didn't have the best quality of paper, so we've been dealing with that ever since. The good news is we have had good advice and we have pursued grant funding. The collection is stable and we are following the advice of the conservators.
A lot of people really appreciate this original art, you know, but they really, you know, view this as fine art. And you know, it's stunning details in it, and we're glad to bring it back to the public at large for their viewing, because it's been kept in storage for quite a while now, and our patrons are asking for it. Just been having a good time seeing that you know, things get interpreted well for American Indian people, as we hope to, you know, try to better educate the public at large about us.
I'm Dr. Arnie Vinio, and today we'll be talking about lung disease. Our lungs are how we get oxygen into our bloodstream, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the waste product left over from respiration. We have one lung on each side of our chest, and the right side has 3 lobes, and the left side has 2 lobes. The heart is mostly on the left side and takes up the space of a lobe. The trachea, or breathing tube, splits into 2 parts that go into each lung, then they split into the tubes that go into each lobe. Those tubes split smaller and smaller until they go to the individual alveoli. These are the tiny sacs surrounded by blood vessels where the actual exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. These alveoli are so tiny that there are about 480 million in each lung. If we cut them open and laid them side to side, they would cover an area about the size of a tennis court. Every breath we take is through a membrane that size. Asthma is a condition where the breathing passages get inflamed, and that narrows them. In addition, there are muscles around the airways that tighten up when someone has an asthma attack, and then the mucus that is naturally in the lungs can't clear itself well, and that worsens the problem. The medicines used for asthma open the breathing passages and decrease the inflammation that causes the tubes to be puffy and narrow. Asthma can range from being an inconvenience all the way to life-threatening. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and this is a chronic condition that is not reversible, and it includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. The problem is getting air out of the lungs, and old, stale air gets trapped in the lungs and causes shortness of breath because there's less oxygen in that air. COPD is the 4th leading cause of death worldwide and the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. Flares or exacerbations of COPD can be triggered by bacterial infections, viral infections, pollution, and weather changes. These flares are often treated with antibiotics, steroids, and bronchodilator treatments to open breathing passages. Pneumonia is an infection of the lungs and can be seen on a chest x-ray. Pneumonia is treated with antibiotics to treat the infection and bronchodilators to open the airways, and often people with pneumonia need to be in the hospital. Lung cancers cause shortness of breath, and the treatments for lung cancer are multiple. CHF is congestive heart failure, and if the heart isn't pumping well, fluid can back up in the lungs and cause breathing problems. This is a serious disease, and the treatment includes diuretics or water pills to make you pee off the excess fluid. A pulmonary embolism is a blood clot that forms somewhere else and travels to the lungs. All blood returning to the heart goes through the lungs, and a traveling clot can get stuck in the lungs. We'll talk about each of these problems separately in future segments. Smoking contributes to and worsens every one of these problems, and non-traditional tobacco use has done untold damage to our people. There are very good medicines to help people stop smoking. Please email me with any subjects you would like discussed here or questions you would like addressed. Remember to call an elder. They've been waiting for your call. I'm Dr. Arnie Vinio, and this is Health Matters.
There are many benefits, both physically and psychologically, from running. For Sara Agaton Howes, it was life-changing, so much so that she formed QuayPack, a running group that has grown from 7 to more than 25 runners, all of them women.
The chill of a fall morning did not deter this group of men, women, and children from enjoying the outdoors. Many were here to participate in the Rock Your Mocs Run, a 5K trail run coordinated by Sara Agaton Howes.
Today our running group is having a Mocs 5K, and so we're bringing together our family and our communities to get together to sort of celebrate our wellness, celebrate a lot of the races that we've done, and bringing in our family together to do a run in our moccasins. We've been working hard to teach moccasin making in our community. Today is the first day of Rock Your Mocs Week, so we're gonna get out there and run in our moccasins and run like our ancestors. So this is exciting. The group started really organically, and so it's just kind of evolved. It started as just a couple of friends running together, and then it became a bigger group of friends running together, and it's changed over time. For a while we were the 10 Quay, and then we became the 25 Quay, and then we became the QuayPack, and we've always been like an Indigenous women of color based running group. And so it's an ever-evolving, organic, grassroots running group.
Sara founded the Native Women's Running Group, or the QuayPack as they call themselves. Quay is an Ojibwe word meaning woman. Her decision to begin running proved life-changing.
I think that part of the effect of colonization has been we have extremely high rates of obesity, extremely high rates of disease, and for us, a lot of high rates of addiction and depression, and you know this, but that running and the freedom that comes from running is part of how we break out from that, and how we become a healthier, more thriving community is by running and getting out in the world. Our ancestors never sat still. Our ancestors were always moving, and living a healthy life is really, really difficult. And a lot of us have lost really huge amounts of weight. There's women in our group who've lost 100 pounds. I've lost like 80 pounds, and so part of what inspires me is just not wanting to go back to that place of being trapped in my own body.
I was really overweight. I was, I would say about 80 pounds heavier than I am now, 85 pounds. At that time I was 24. Running with this group has really changed my life because it helps me see what it is that I want to build for my family, for a healthy community, building a healthy relationships outside of just my core family, but the community effect, and how my children are able to see how to live a healthy way. I think that's really a big piece of why I run with this group.
Those are gorgeous. They're really warm.
The running group is a very positive place for these women. Their focus may be running, but it also is a time to come together and talk about shared experiences.
I always have run mostly my whole life, but I never knew any other Native women run. And so when I found this group, it also came at a time when my grandma had passed away, and I guess spiritually I felt dead inside. And when I found this group, I felt my spirit come back to life, and a lot of joy and laughter. And it's beautiful the way that the women in this group, it seems like everybody's come from some kind of brokenness, whether it's overcoming losing weight or family situations. And the way that we have just grown together and become stronger is really tremendous.
The Quapac means a lot of different things to me. Obviously, first and foremost, a running group, but it is friendship. I like the healthy face that it puts on for the community. Not only am I friends with a lot of people in the group, our kids are friends. We support each other in many different ways. We're more than just a running group. We're, essentially family.
This is a difficult, lifelong path to live a healthy life. And we want to support each other, not only in just being healthy and in our families and our children being healthy, but also it's kind of escalated now to the point where we have people doing endurance, like ultra marathons. So we've gone from some of us helping each other do 5Ks to having 25 women at the start of an ultra race through the woods in the most difficult terrain in the region. And so that's really exciting because the new face of ultra running is our face. We as women, we're the ones who are helping bring our children both culturally and through their health and wellness. Women are the ones that often who are providing the food for their families. And I think for a lot of women, as we're getting a little bit older, is building a network of positive, healthy women around us. We need that support. And I think women are the backbone of our community. And so if we are all going to get healthier, the women have to get healthier. Now it's become normal. And that's one of the things that we really want to do, is we want to normalize wellness. We want to make that's just what Native people do. We are that. We are healthy people. We are people who run. We are healthy families, and really make that just a normal part of our community.
We're a fairly small community, like 2,000 people here, and we produce quite a few All-Americans, college All-Americans, high school All-Americans. People go from here to Senior B, Senior A lacrosse, pro lacrosse. Okay, from a small community, we always have, pretty much you could say every year we're in the finals in the league. We're either 1 or 2, and a lot of times number 1. And we always produce a number 1 team, and other communities have 45,000 people, 60,000 people. And it's kind of like in our blood. We do good, top-notch lacrosse. We teach our kids from 5 years old all the way up, and a lot of kids, they're given a wooden stick when they're very young, so they start with the wood. The babies, a baby in a crib, there's a picture inside. My cousin's grandson, in the crib, about 2 weeks old. He's wearing a gastoa on his head, he's got feathers on it, and he's got this little lacrosse stick in his hand. He's 2 weeks old. So they put the stick in the hand of that kid when he's 2 weeks old, and our people are buried with the stick. So it's from the cradle to the grave with that wooden lacrosse stick.
Next, the Lac du Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa was recognized by the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation for Envision, a youth empowerment program. Join us now as we visit the Lac du Flambeau Reservation.
It is not quite lunchtime at Lac du Flambeau Public School, and this group of 5th graders participating in a school's anti-bullying initiative is seated in a large circle. Each will introduce themselves in Ojibwe, their native language.
Today we had our 5th grade class going on today, and we started our 4th grade, are standing in good way circles. They're about 45 to 50 minutes long, and that's really based off our initiative for bullying. And so that whole theme behind the bullying initiative was to really create awareness into school, in the community, and to really take a look at, because we were gathering real stories from the playground to the lunchroom to the hallways to the buses. We all know bullying it happens everywhere worldwide. It happens every day. So we're doing our best to really combat in the community here. So we're on this journey, this culturally responsive journey, and really having the community involvement. Because this particular room is a community room. We invite elders in. We've got foster grandparents that come and sit in some of our circles.
The Standing in a Good Way initiative is part of a broader effort to achieve a healthy community. For their efforts, the Lac du Flambeau Band was one of the 8 winners of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's 2015 Culture of Health Prize. Getting to this point, however, was not without pain or controversy.
It's really hard to talk about the things that are happening in our community, what has happened, what is still happening. I can remember when there was no dope in this reservation. We had alcoholism way back then. Never knew what Oxycontins were, never knew what marijuana was, or never knew about all these high, powerful drugs that just came in our community and grabbed our people. So we had a community meeting. My colleagues were all there. We talked about different things. Number one, we declared a state of emergency. So that meant that government could basically do a lot. Then for a few months, then all of a sudden we started to realize we got to get these drug lords or these drug people that are bringing us into the city. So what we did was the tribe took the initiative to introduce a resolution to banish people from this reservation. So that night, history was made again.
We heard the cries from our community, and they were loud cries for our leaders, our council to act. Tom made it clear from day one that we were declaring a war on drugs. We started this state of emergency March 29th of 2013. You know, a couple years into it here, we'd like to say that we're into this last year possibly, and maybe into this state of recovery, we call it now. Not that everybody's healed here, but certainly things have gotten a lot better.
Paths to better health have flourished with the opening of the Peter Christensen Health Center in 2009 and a dental clinic in 2013. There is also a community-based residential facility for those recovering from addiction.
The vision was to have a treatment center here on the reservation that would be able to provide the needs of our membership. Previously, the tribe had sent people away, so if you wanted to go to treatment, if you wanted to get healthy, if there were needs you had, they weren't necessarily able to be met here on the reservation or locally. What Gokomis and Dodd allows people to do is to stay on the reservation and provides a treatment option that is grounded in our ways, and I think that was a big coup for the tribe to not only secure that vision, but ultimately make it happen.
Language is also a healing force, and it starts with the young people, such as those within this circle, and a strong sense of community could be felt at a celebration held that afternoon in the school gymnasium.
It's gained a lot of momentum over the years, and also having tribal leaders come in as we did today. Tom Mawson, Brooks Big John, former leaders, still influential in the community, the work they've done in their time as leaders. And so that's evolved, really trying to get that community to really come in to have a say, change that whole dynamic, strengthen the efforts, build upon the things that are in place and really move in that direction.
I see that grandfather on the horizon again. And I say Chimigwich to him every morning for giving me this time to be here with, our young people, our people that really struggling hard to make it happen. Only we can stop it. We can stop it in our hearts.
I wanted things to change here in my reservation so quick and so bad for our people. I wanted them to heal, overnight or the next day or the next week. And I had to kind of come to terms and realize that it's going to take a little while. we didn't get into this problem overnight. And it's certainly, you know, going to take a little while to fix it and get us on the right track. But right now, I have no doubts in my mind that Lac du Flambeau is on the right track.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us on the web at nativereport.org, on Facebook, and on Twitter.
Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors across Indian Country. I'm Rita Aspinwall.
And I'm Ernie Stevens. Join us next week for another Native Report.
Rita Aspinwall is an enrolled member of the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and is an ICWA social worker with Fond du Lac Social Services. Ernie Stevens is a member of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin and is a film and television producer. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux Community, the Blandin Foundation, and the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation.